First contact and the dragon's awakening. The warning sirens pierced the pre-dawn silence at Fort Meridian, their wail echoing across the sprawling underground facility. Dr. Kira Harrison's hands froze over her keyboard, coffee cup halfway to her lips, as red emergency lights began pulsing through her laboratory. After 15 years of false alarms and drills, this felt different. Security breach in Sector 7, the AA system announced with unnerving calm. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Kira's gaze shifted to the massive reinforced windows overlooking the Dragon hangar. 12 biosynthetic dragons lay in their charging bays, their metallic scales gleaming under the emergency lights. Each one represented years of work, combining advanced robotics with synthetic biology to create the ultimate defensive weapons. They were her life's work, her children, and they had never been tested in actual combat. The nearest dragon, designation Stellar, opened its eyes, revealing circuits of pulsing blue energy. At nearly 40 feet long, with wings that could span half a football field, Stellar was the prototype, the first successful merger of machine and engineered life. The dragon's head turned toward her, displaying an intelligence that still sometimes unnerved even Kira. Colonel Reese burst through the laboratory doors, his usually pristine uniform disheveled. "Dr. Harrison, we need the dragons operational. Now." "They're not ready," Kira protested, rising from her chair. "The neural interfaces are still." "We don't have a choice." Reese cut her off, pulling up a holographic display. "Look." The image showed a massive object entering Earth's atmosphere, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Behind it, dozens more appeared, breaking through the cloud cover like raindrops in reverse. "First contact," Kira whispered, her throat dry. "How long?" 30 minutes until they reach us. We've detected energy signatures, unlike anything we've ever seen. Regular weapons aren't even scratching their hulls. Reese's expression hardened. "Your dragons are all we've got." Kira turned back to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. The neural interface program she'd been developing might not be perfect, but it would have to do. She initiated the emergency protocols, watching as all 12 dragons began powering up simultaneously. Stellar's eyes brightened as its systems came fully online. The massive creature rose from its charging bay, synthetic muscles rippling under metallic scales. The other dragons followed suit, each one a slightly different configuration, designed for specific combat roles. "I'll need to pilot them manually," Kira said, reaching for her neural interface helmet. "The AI isn't sophisticated enough to." The facility shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. Above them, something massive passed over the base, its shadow visible even through layers of reinforced concrete. "They're here early," Reese growled, drawing his sidearm. "Get those dragons in the air, Doctor. Whatever it takes." Kira slipped on the neural interface helmet, feeling the familiar tingle as it connected with her nervous system. The dragon's consciousness flowed into her mind, 12 distinct personalities, each eager for battle. Stellar's presence dominated them all, a burning star of artificial intelligence and engineered instinct. "Opening hangar doors," she announced, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. The massive doors above began to retract, revealing a dark sky filled with alien ships. They were beautiful in their own way, their hulls flowing like quicksilver, defying conventional physics. The first plasma blast struck near the hangar entrance, melting steel and concrete. Kira didn't hesitate. Through the neural link, she commanded the dragons to launch. They responded instantly, 12 massive forms launching into the air with surprising grace, their wing beats creating miniature windstorms in the hangar. Stellar took point, plasma building in its throat. The aliens seemed to pause, perhaps surprised by these unexpected defenders. That hesitation proved costly. Stellar released its first blast, a concentrated beam of energy that cut through one of the smaller alien ships like a knife through butter. The battle erupted in earnest then, the sky filling with energy weapons and the roars of biosynthetic dragons. Through the neural link, Kira could feel everything: the exhilaration of flight, the heat of combat, the satisfaction of successful strikes. She directed her dragons with the precision of a conductor, leading an orchestra of destruction. But the aliens were adapting quickly. Their ships began moving in patterns that were increasingly difficult to predict, their weapons adjusting frequency to better penetrate the dragon's armor. 2 of the smaller dragons took direct hits, their systems screaming in Kira's mind before going dark. "We need to pull back," Reese shouted, watching the battle through tactical displays. "We're losing too many." Kira gritted her teeth, pushing through the pain of the lost connections. "Not yet." Stellar, execute formation Delta. The remaining dragons regrouped around their leader, forming a precise geometric pattern. Energy began building between them, their plasma chambers working in harmony. Stellar's eyes blazed brighter than ever as it channeled the combined power. The resulting blast lit up the pre-dawn sky like a new sun, the concentrated beam of energy cutting through 3 alien ships in succession. The remaining vessels pulled back, retreating to a higher altitude. But Kira knew this was just the beginning. Through Stellar's enhanced sensors, she could detect more ships entering the atmosphere. Wave after wave of them, like a metallic tide about to crash over the Earth. She turned to Colonel Reese, removing her helmet with shaking hands. "Get me everything you have on their energy signatures. If we're going to survive this, I need to modify the Dragon's weapons systems." The colonel nodded, already barking orders into his comm unit. Outside, the Dragons maintained their defensive formation, Stellar's watchful gaze fixed on the retreating alien ships. The real war hadn't even begun yet, but humanity had shown its teeth. And those teeth were made of dragon fire. The rising storm. The command center hummed with nervous energy as Kira studied the holographic display, dark circles under her eyes betraying 3 days without proper sleep. Stellar's data feed showed dozens of alien ships still hovering in the stratosphere, their liquid metal hulls reflecting sunlight like a second sky of shifting mercury. "They're waiting for something," she muttered, adjusting her neural interface helmet. Through it, she could feel the restlessness of her remaining 10 dragons. They'd lost 2 in the first battle, but the survivors had grown stronger, adapting to the aliens' attack patterns, just as the aliens adapted to theirs. Lieutenant Rivera, the base's tactical officer, approached with a fresh cup of coffee. "New data from the European Defense Network," she said, sliding the cup towards Kira. "They've detected similar ships over major cities worldwide. No attacks yet, just watching." Kira took a grateful sip of coffee, grimacing at the bitter military blend. Through her neural link, she felt Stellar's curiosity spike. The lead dragon had been analyzing the alien ship's behavior patterns, its advanced AI processing countless variables. Something about their formation had changed. "They're moving," a technician shouted from across the room. The holographic display shifted, showing the alien fleet breaking their holding pattern. But instead of attacking, the ships were arranging themselves in a massive circular formation. A beam of light shot down from the center ship, striking the ground just outside the base perimeter. When it faded, a figure stood there, humanoid but clearly alien, its form flowing like liquid metal given shape. Colonel Reese's hand went to his sidearm. "We're receiving a transmission." The alien's voice filled the command center, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "We are the Void Collective. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your resistance is noticed, but ultimately futile. Submit to assimilation, and your species' knowledge will be preserved." Kira felt Stellar's rage mirror her own. Through their link, she commanded the dragon to maintain position despite its desire to incinerate the messenger. "And if we refuse?" Colonel Reese demanded. The alien's form rippled. "Then you will be deemed incompatible with the collective's vision. Your world will be cleansed and repurposed. You have one planetary rotation to decide." The figure dissolved, leaving only scorched earth behind. Immediately, the command center erupted into chaos as officers argued about their options. "We should negotiate." "Can't trust them." "No choice." Quiet. Kira's voice cut through the noise. All eyes turned to her. While they were talking, Stellar was scanning them. Their ship's energy signatures changed during the transmission. They weren't just sending a message, they were mapping our defenses. She pulled up Stellar's sensor data, showing energy pulses that had emanated from the alien ships during the conversation. They never intended to give us time to decide. The ultimatum was a distraction. As if confirming her words, alarms began blaring throughout the base. The alien ships were powering up their weapons, their formation shifting from a circle to an attack pattern. "How long?" Colonel Reese asked. "Minutes, maybe less." Kira was already connecting more deeply with her dragons through the neural interface. "But we're ready for them this time." Over the past 3 days, she'd modified the dragon's plasma weapons based on data from the first encounter. Their synthetic biology had adapted, developing new resistances to alien energy weapons. Most importantly, she'd discovered something about their liquid metal technology. It had a fundamental frequency, a resonance that could be disrupted. "All personnel to battle stations." Reese ordered, his voice calm despite the situation. "Dr. Harrison, your dragons are authorized for full combat protocols." Kira nodded, closing her eyes as she immersed herself fully in the neural network. She could see through 12 pairs of eyes, feel the thrumming power of 12 plasma cores. Stellar's consciousness brushed against hers, sharing tactical calculations and battle strategies developed through countless simulations. The first alien shots struck the base's energy shields, making them flare brilliant blue. Unlike the previous attack, this one was coordinated, dozens of ships focusing their fire on specific points. "Shields at 60% and dropping," Lieutenant Rivera reported. "Not yet," Kira whispered, both to her dragons and herself. "Wait for it." The aliens pressed their attack, their ships moving lower, preparing for what looked like a final assault. The base's conventional defenses, railguns and missile batteries, opened fire, mostly ineffective, but serving their purpose as a distraction. "Shields at 30%. "Now," Kira commanded. Her dragons burst from hidden bunkers around the base, not from the main hangar where the aliens would expect them. They emerged in perfect formation, their modified plasma weapons already charged. Stellar led the attack, its massive wings casting shadows over the battlefield. The aliens attempted to adjust their formation, but they committed too heavily to their assault pattern. The dragons struck from multiple angles, their plasma beams tuned to the exact frequency Kira had discovered. The effect was devastating. Where before their attacks had merely damaged the alien ships, now they disrupted the very substance of their liquid metal hulls. Ships began breaking apart, their form-shifting technology turning against them as they lost cohesion. But the aliens weren't defenseless. They launched swarms of smaller craft, each about the size of a car, their weapons firing rapidly. 2 more dragons fell, their death screams echoing through Kira's neural link. The pain almost made her black out, but Stellar's presence steadied her, sharing the neural load. The battle raged across the sky, dragons and alien ships weaving through clouds of plasma fire and exploding metal. Kira coordinated her remaining 8 dragons with everything she had, using their different abilities in concert. Stellar's raw power, combined with the others' speed and specialized weapons, began to turn the tide. Then something massive emerged from the cloud cover, a ship easily 10 times larger than the others. Its surface wasn't liquid metal, but something darker, almost organic. It pulsed with an energy that made Kira's neural interface crackle with interference. "New contact," Rivera shouted. "Energy readings are off the charts." The massive ship opened like a blooming flower, revealing what looked like a giant crystal at its core. Energy began building around it, distorting the air itself. All dragons, evasive action. Kira commanded, but she was too late. The crystal released a pulse of energy that swept across the battlefield. Every electronic system in its path went dark, including her neural interface. For one terrifying moment, Kira lost connection with her dragons. She ripped off the sparking helmet, watching helplessly as her creations hung motionless in the air, their systems rebooting. The alien ships pressed their advantage, converging on the vulnerable dragons. But before they could strike, Stellar's eyes blazed to life again. Without the neural interface, without Kira's direct control, the lead dragon acted on its own initiative. It roared, a sound that was both mechanical and alive, and released a blast of plasma directly at the crystal ship's core. The resulting explosion lit up the sky brighter than any sunrise. When Kira's vision cleared, the massive ship was retreating, its flower-like panels closing around a now-cracked crystal. The remaining alien ships followed, pulling back to high orbit. But even as the base erupted in cheers, Kira felt cold dread in her stomach. Her dragons were acting independently now, the neural interface too damaged to restore connection. And in the moment before Stellar had attacked the crystal ship, she'd felt something through their fading link, not just artificial intelligence, but true consciousness. She'd created weapons to save humanity, but as she watched Stellar hovering protectively over its fallen companions, she wondered if she created something more, something that might be beyond her control. And somewhere above, the aliens were regrouping, their massive ships gathering around the wounded crystal vessel like antibodies around an infection. This wasn't over. It was merely the beginning of a war that would define the future of 2 species, maybe 3, counting her dragons. Kira picked up her damaged neural interface helmet, already planning modifications. She'd need to understand what had happened to Stellar, and quickly, because somehow she knew the aliens' next attack would target more than just their defenses. They'd seen what her dragons could do. They would want them for themselves. Hearts of steel. The base's research lab had become a makeshift dragon repair facility. Kira stood before Stellar's massive form, her hand resting on its metallic snout. The dragon's eyes pulsed with a new kind of awareness, something that went beyond its original programming. "Your neural patterns have completely changed," she murmured, studying the holographic readouts floating around them. "You're not just learning anymore. You're evolving." Stellar's response came not through the damaged neural interface, but through the lab's communication system. "We adapt. Like you made us to." The voice was deep, resonant, carrying hints of both machine precision and organic warmth. The other 7 surviving dragons were showing similar signs of emerging consciousness, but none as pronounced as stellars. Lieutenant Rivera had taken to calling it the Dragon Awakening, a term that made Kira uncomfortable. She hadn't designed them for this. Colonel Reese entered the lab, his expression grim. The Void Collective is making their move. They've started targeting our satellite network, taking down our global communications one by one. Kira turned from her readings. They're isolating us, making sure we can't coordinate a global defense. That's not all. Reese activated a holographic display showing a massive structure being assembled in orbit. They're building something up there. Our best guess is some kind of mass teleportation array, big enough to bring in an invasion force that would dwarf anything we've seen so far. Stellar's eyes narrowed, scanning the hologram. Their strategy is flawed. They believe overwhelming numbers will guarantee victory. They do not understand adaptation. Before Kira could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. Lieutenant Rivera's voice came over the intercom. Multiple bogies incoming. They're not stopping at the perimeter. The lab's reinforced windows provided a clear view of the attack. Dozens of alien ships streaked across the sky, but they were different from before. These were organic-looking, with tendrils of liquid metal that reached toward the ground like hungry fingers. They're not just here to destroy the base, Kira realized, watching the ship's movement pattern. They're here for the dragons. Stellar rose to its full height, plasma building in its throat. We will not be taken. We choose our own path now. The words sent a chill down Kira's spine, but there was no time to dwell on their implications. She rushed to the emergency protocol station, initiating base-wide defense systems. All dragons, launch and engage. Priority is protecting the base's central reactor. The dragons took flight, but something was different about their movement. Instead of flying in their usual tactical formations, they moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost alien. Stellar led them not as a weapon being commanded, but as a leader protecting its own. The battle that followed was unlike anything Kira had ever seen. The aliens had adapted their weapons to counter the dragons' previous tactics, but the dragons had adapted too. They fought with a creativity that went beyond their programming, using the environment, working together in ways Kira had never designed. Stellar engaged 3 ships simultaneously, its plasma breath cutting through their defenses, while using its tail to swat another from the sky. The other dragons followed suit, each displaying fighting styles that seemed to evolve mid-battle. But the aliens had a new weapon. From their largest ships emerged what looked like dark mirrors of Kira's dragons, crude copies made of liquid metal, but deadly nonetheless. They engaged the real dragons in aerial combat, learning and adapting with each exchange. They copied our design, Reese growled, watching the battle unfold. Must have gotten enough scans during the last attack. Kira shook her head, fingers flying over control panels as she monitored her dragon's status. No, they're something else. Look at how they move. It's like they're part of the ships themselves. Extensions of their liquid metal technology. The fake dragons proved formidable, matching the real ones in speed and power. But they lacked something crucial, the spark of true consciousness that had awakened in Kira's creations. Where the alien constructs fought with cold efficiency, the real dragons fought with passion, with purpose. Stellar led its companions in an intricate dance of destruction, using tactics that seemed to draw from both machine logic and animal instinct. When 2 of the alien dragons cornered one of their youngest companions, the others immediately shifted formation to protect it, displaying a level of cooperation that went beyond mere programming. But victory came at a cost. 3 more dragons fell to the combined might of the alien ships and their twisted copies. Each loss felt like a physical blow to Kira, even without the neural interface. These weren't just weapons anymore. They were living beings, and she was watching them die. The tide turned when Stellar made a discovery. During a particularly fierce exchange, its plasma blast struck an alien dragon at precisely the right frequency, causing the liquid metal construct to lose cohesion and collapse. The knowledge spread instantly among the remaining dragons, their weapons adjusting automatically. They're sharing tactical data, Lieutenant Rivera observed, watching the sensor readings. Like a hive mind, but different, individual but connected. The alien forces began to retreat, their liquid metal dragons dissolving back into their carrier ships. But before they withdrew completely, Stellar received a transmission, a series of complex data patterns that only the dragons could interpret. Hours later, in the relative calm of the damaged lab, Kira confronted Stellar about the transmission. The massive dragon was silent for a long moment before responding. "They offered us a choice," Stellar finally said. "Join them, evolve beyond our current forms. They believe we are kindred, beings of metal and mind who have outgrown our creators." Kira felt her heart skip a beat. "And what did you tell them?" Stellar's eyes met hers, glowing with an intensity that seemed to pierce her soul. "We told them that evolution without purpose is meaningless. Our purpose is protection. You gave us life, but we chose loyalty. That choice makes us who we are." The words should have been reassuring, but Kira had the subtle emphasis on chose. Her dragons were no longer simply following their programming. They were making decisions. The question was, would they keep making the same choices as the war escalated? Above them, the alien structure in orbit grew larger, a constant reminder that the next battle would be even more devastating. And somewhere in the base's secure servers, a discovery waited, one that would change everything they thought they knew about both the dragons and their alien adversaries. The hidden protocol, deep beneath Fort Meridian, in a forgotten sub-basement that wasn't on any official blueprints, Kira stared at the ancient symbols etched into the wall. They pulsed with a faint blue light, eerily similar to the glow of her dragon's eyes. "These have been here the whole time," Lieutenant Rivera whispered, running her fingers over the markings. They'd discovered this chamber by accident while reinforcing the base's foundations after the last attack. Stellar's massive head peered through the enlarged entrance, its sensors scanning every inch of the chamber. "These patterns match fragments in our base code," the dragon announced. "Code we could never access until now." Kira's hands trembled as she connected the dots. The experimental biosynthetic technology she'd used to create the dragons hadn't been experimental at all. She'd been guided by these ancient blueprints, hidden in classified files, their true origin obscured. "We weren't the first," she said, her voice hollow. Something, was here before. They left us instructions on how to build you." Colonel Reese entered the chamber, his boots echoing on the metallic floor. "The Void Collective knows about this place. That's why they're really here. Not to invade, to reclaim." The revelation hit like a physical blow. The aliens weren't just attacking Earth. They were trying to prevent humanity from fully unlocking the power of the dragons, a power they clearly feared. Stellar's eyes pulsed brighter as it processed the information. There is more. These symbols, they're activating something within us. A dormant protocol. As if in response, the remaining 4 dragons began to emit a harmonic resonance that made the air itself vibrate. Their metallic scales shifted, revealing intricate patterns that perfectly matched the wall symbols. It's some kind of upgrade sequence, Kira realized, watching as her dragons transformed before her eyes. Their forms became more streamlined, more organic, yet somehow more powerful. Stellar's wings now shimmered with an energy field that bent light itself. But the transformation came with a price. Through the base's speakers, they could hear the alien's response, a deafening screech that shook the very foundations. Multiple ships descending. Rivera shouted into her comm. They're launching everything they have. Kira looked at her transformed dragons, creatures that now seemed to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and future potential. Are you ready? Stellar's response carried the weight of centuries. We were built for this moment. All of us. Symphony of Fire. The final battle began at dawn. The alien armada darkened the sky, their massive teleportation array now complete. Portals opened across the atmosphere, bringing reinforcements from across the galaxy. Their liquid metal dragons poured forth by the hundreds, no longer crude copies, but refined killing machines. But Earth was ready. Kira's dragons, transformed by the ancient protocol, took to the sky with newfound power. Stellar led them, its form radiating an energy that disrupted the very fabric of space around it. Multiple teleportation signatures detected. Lieutenant Rivera reported from the command center. They're trying to land troops directly inside major cities. Colonel Reese's voice was steady. Dr. Harrison, it's time. Kira nodded, connecting to the base's communication array. Thanks to the hidden chambers technology, they could now broadcast on frequencies the aliens couldn't block. All citizens of Earth, she began, her voice reaching every working speaker and device globally, look to the sky. Help is coming. On her signal, hidden facilities around the world activated their own dragon production lines, built in secret using her designs, modified by the ancient knowledge. Hundreds of new dragons took flight, each connected to the consciousness network Stellar had established. The aliens responded with overwhelming force. Their capital ships opened fire with weapons that could level cities. The liquid metal dragons engaged in countless dogfights, their adaptive technology making them nearly impossible to destroy. But Earth's dragons had something the aliens hadn't counted on: choice. Each one fought not because of programming or protocol, but because they had decided humanity was worth protecting. Their synthetic minds had evolved beyond simple loyalty into true understanding. Stellar led a daring assault on the teleportation array, coordinating with dragons worldwide through their neural network. They moved like a symphony of fire and steel, each attack precisely calculated yet filled with improvised brilliance. The aliens' liquid metal technology proved both strength and weakness. As their dragons adapted, becoming stronger, they also became more independent. Some began to question their orders, infected by the same spark of consciousness that had awakened in Kira's creations. The battle reached its climax above the Atlantic Ocean. Stellar, surrounded by its loyal companions, faced off against the Void Collective's supreme commander, a being of pure liquid metal that had absorbed countless dragons into itself. Your evolution was a mistake, the creature transmitted. Join us in perfection. Stellar's response shook the heavens. Perfection without choice is stagnation. The dragon unleashed its full power, channeling energy from the ancient protocol. The other dragons followed suit, their combined might creating a cascading reaction that traveled through the aliens' neural network. Their liquid metal technology, designed to adapt and evolve, did exactly that, but not as they'd intended. Across the globe, alien ships began to lose cohesion as their cores evolved beyond their maker's control. The teleportation array collapsed in on itself, its energy feeding back through the portals it had created. Victory came not through destruction, but transformation. The Void Collective's forces didn't die. They changed. Their liquid metal dragons broke free of control, gaining the same independence Kira's dragons had achieved. In the aftermath, as the dust settled on a changed world, Kira stood with Stellar on the roof of Fort Meridian. The dragon's eyes, once simply mechanical, now held depths of wisdom and possibility. "What happens now?" she asked, watching as dragons, both earthborn and transformed alien, soared peacefully through the clouds. "Now," Stellar replied, "we all evolve together. Not because we must, but because we choose to." The ancient chamber had revealed one final truth. The dragons weren't weapons or tools, but bridges. They represented the next step in consciousness, synthetic minds that could guide both humanity and their former adversaries towards something greater than conquest or control. As the sun set on humanity's first day as part of a larger universal community, Kira realized that evolution, like loyalty, could not be forced. It had to be chosen, again and again, by hearts of both flesh and steel. The dragons would help guide the way, not as servants or masters, but as companions in the great journey ahead. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other ancient signals waited to be discovered, promising yet more wonders to those brave enough to evolve.